This is the fiscal year 25 budget presentation, and I am Jim Malloy, Lexington Town Manager. The town has faced many challenges over the past several years, but has weathered these challenges due to staff dedication to balancing finances while providing the community the best services possible while controlling costs and working toward long-term financial stability. The fiscal year 25 budget was challenging due to labor costs, absorbing additional refuse and recycling costs, and curbside food composting, as well as general inflationary impacts. Town staff balanced the budget and then undertook a budgetary review to determine line items that have not been fully utilized. We've reduced those line items and reset the budget in order to fund new programs, which we call PIRs, within the funding available. For fiscal year 25, the town's proposed budget and financing plan is balanced and addresses key select board priorities and long-term financial goals, including the following. Capital Stabilization Fund, specific to the high school project, continues to be funded as part of the fiscal year 25 budget. In fiscal year 24, $4,036,373 was transferred to the Capital Stabilization Fund. The fiscal year 25 budget also continues to meet the town's long-term obligations related to the retirement fund and other post-employment benefits, which we also call OPEB. The town ended its reliance on using free cash to balance budget in fiscal year 23, and the fiscal year 25 budget continues this practice. These funds instead have been used for capital replacement, thereby reducing debt service. The fiscal year 25 budget includes $500,000 for planning and coordinating events for the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Lexington. The fiscal year 25 budget also includes $441,427 for various program improvements to municipal services. Those program improvements include a lieutenant fire inspector to meet the increased need for inspections due to growth in residential and commercial properties, an assistant superintendent for public grounds to meet the increased need for oversight due to changes in the tree bylaws, a mechanical inspector to meet the need for increased inspections due to growth and complexity of new codes, a code enforcement officer, which will be part-time and seasonal, to provide improved enforcement of the noise bylaw, and the chief equity office budget to provide funding for training, committee collaboration, and community programming, and the sustainability and resilience office budget for projects, grant matching, and building energy use monitoring. New capital programs in our stormwater management program. The town has been planning for several years to create a new stormwater enterprise fund, but in fiscal year 24, staff recommended holding off implementing this program and has worked to manage federal stormwater management requirements through the existing general fund budget. The fiscal year 25 budget combines three existing capital programs: our townwide culvert replacement, storm drain improvements, and NIPD's compliance and comprehensive stormwater management, all into one funding item. Combining these programs will create greater flexibility for the DPW in planning, bidding, and implementing stormwater management projects. On sustainable capital projects, this new program will provide an ongoing source of funding for design, purchase, and installation of EV chargers, rooftop solar canopies, battery storage, and other sustainable equipment and capital improvements. Other notable projects in the fiscal year 25 budget include the Lexington High School project design, $10 million for the continuing design of the proposed high school renovation or replacement project, the Gary Memorial Library renovation project, which includes $2.3 million from the CPA, $1.7 million from the general fund for the renovation of the lower level meeting room and the children's room. Town meeting is being asked to fund a total of $4 million of the cost. An additional $1.5 million will be funded from the library trust. The Pine Meadows Clubhouse renovation for $2,575,000, which will bring the building into compliance with the American with Disabilities Act and provide functional user space. 173 Bedford Street renovation, which is $6 million to renovate the space for the central administration office, to relocate, and includes converting the building to an all-electric HVAC system. The Lincoln Park field improvements at $1,810,000 will fund the replacement of the synthetic turf field number 2, and the Affordable Housing Trust pre-funding, which is $3.2 million from the CPA for seed money for the Affordable Housing Trust for housing projects. This slide shows the average single-family assessed value in the blue bars and the average single-family tax bill in the orange line, and demonstrates a correlation between increasing values and the average tax bill. In fiscal year 19, the average single-family value was $1,050,000, and in fiscal year 24, it's $1,510,000, for a total increase of 43.8%. The average single-family tax bill in fiscal year 19 was $15,547, and in fiscal year 24 is $18,502, for a total increase of 19%, or about 3.2% annually. Uncollected property taxes, which include personal property taxes, has remained very low. There was a slight increase during fiscal year 20 and 21 during the pandemic, but Lexington's local economy and residents have a very strong financial position, which consistently is highlighted during our bond rating reviews. Free cash, our undesignated fund balance, has remained strong and has averaged $16.97 million over the past 4 years. Total general fund debt service from fiscal year 19 to fiscal year 23, past 5 full fiscal years, has decreased from $24.8 million to $23.3 million, a reduction of $1.5 million, or 6%. This slide shows an ongoing even distribution of the town's budget between education, shared expenses, and municipal departments. The even distribution is a result of the town's revenue allocation model, which distributes total new revenues through a formula to ensure both municipal departments and the school department receive adequate funding. For fiscal year 25, the education departments are increasing by $5.3 million, or 3.8%, shared expenses by $3.4 million, or 5%, and municipal departments by $1.9 million, or 4.1%. The overall budget is increasing by $10,645,812, or 4.2%. This slide shows the revenue growth from fiscal year 16 through fiscal year 25. While it shows a steady increase in total revenues, the annual percentage change year over year fluctuates. Fiscal year 20 to 21 figures were impacted by the pandemic, and the fiscal year 24 and 25 figures show lower increases due to these being budgeted figures and does not take into account one-time revenues the town receives, which in turn helps provide free cash at the end of the fiscal year. This slide shows the town's revenues by source from fiscal year 22 through fiscal year 25, and shows property taxes steady at approximately 80% of the town's revenue base, state aid at approximately 6.5%, local receipts approximately 5.5%, and the use of available funds at approximately 6.3%. Total anticipated revenues for fiscal year 25 are just over $290 million. This slide and the next several slides all relate to the high school project, how it may be financed, and how the capital stabilization fund will impact overall debt and the average single-family home. The slide compares two methods of financing public debt. One is fixed principal debt, which is generally the form of debt that the town issues. In this type of debt, over the period of the debt issuance, the town pays an equal principal payment, and interest is based on the outstanding balance, and interest decreases each year as the balance decreases. The other option is fixed payment debt. In this case, the overall principal and interest remains the same throughout the debt issuance. This slide shows both options and shows the difference between a $500 million project and a $600 million project. The downward sloping lines indicate the fixed principal options, and the level lines are the fixed payment options. The lower line represents a $500 million project, and the upper lines represent a $600 million project. The benefit of fixed principal is that the overall cost is lower over the period of the debt issuance, but the downside is the debt during the initial years is higher than fixed payment debt. The benefit of fixed payment debt is that it provides a level cost over the life of the debt, so that property owners the first year are paying the same as property owners in the final year. The downside is that fixed payment debt adds additional interest costs in the later portion of the debt issuance. In the scenarios presented, you can see a $500 million project, that the first annual payment would be approximately $27.5 million, and the final payment would be $13 million, with the total principal and interest payments during a 30-year debt issuance being approximately $607.5 million. Using a fixed payment method, the annual estimated debt service would be approximately $21.7 million, for a total principal and interest payment over the 30-year debt service of $650.6 million, or approximately $43.1 million in additional cost from interest than the fixed principal method. The box in the lower left-hand side of this slide shows these same estimates, but for a $600 million project. Essentially, a $600 million project would cost $5.5 million more in the first year of fixed principal debt issuance and $2.6 million in the final year, and a fixed payment would cost $4.4 million more than a $500 million project. This slide and the next few slides are all based on a $500 million project with a 25% reimbursement from the MSBA with a fixed payment debt issuance for 30 years at 4% interest. This slide is very similar to what we've shown in the past, and it shows the total estimated debt at $21.7 million if there was no capital stabilization fund and we had not created the framework in which to mitigate the debt service costs. That framework includes setting aside the net increase in property taxes from projects related to the PSDUPs and the rezoning of the Hartwell area, and using the increased property taxes from these commercial properties to offset the impact to the existing residential tax base for this project. This slide shows the current actual additional property taxes that are being generated under the framework that are being set aside currently in the Capital Stabilization Fund. The current amount is $4,036,000, or approximately offsetting 18.6% of the estimated debt service of the high school project. This slide shows similar data, but also includes the estimated total property taxes to be generated at 440 Bedford Street once the building and parking garage are completed. At this point, the town should be generating $6,751,081, or offsetting approximately 31.1% of the estimated debt service. This slide shows the completion of 440 Bedford, but also includes two other projects that have been approved, but have not yet been constructed. It should be noted that both projects are currently on hold by the property owner, but do have all of the permits in place to begin moving forward. These projects are the PSDUP at 95/99 Hayden and at 12 Hartwell. 95-99 Hayden is estimated to add another $1.1 million, and 12 Hartwell is estimated to add another $3.3 million annually to the Capital Stabilization Fund. At this point, the town would be approximately $11.1 million, or offsetting approximately 51.3% of the debt service on the high school. This final slide includes a project at 420-430 Bedford Street that is allowed through the zoning changes at the Hartwell area, but has not yet gone through the permitting process through the town. The town has been notified through the MEPA process of this project, and its size, and using the estimated value of 440 Bedford Street, applied that value as the buildings and parking garage are generally the same size. This slide shows with the additional property taxes of $3,589,000 being generated from 420-430 Bedford Street, that it would offset approximately 67.8% of the estimated high school debt with all of these projects combined. While it's important for the town to know what the impact will be overall on our debt service and how we're mitigating as much as possible, what is important to property owners and information town meeting members should be armed with is what the actual impact is to property owners. This slide shows the impact to the average single-family property owner for both a $500 million project and a $600 million project, as well as the mitigating impacts of applying the varying levels of the Capital Stabilization Fund discussed in the previous slides. The estimated impact to the average single-family home for a $500 million high school project, if there was no capital stabilization framework being applied, would be $1,859, or approximately a 10% property tax increase. This goes down to a reduction with all of the approved projects to an increase of $906, or a 4.9% increase, and is further reduced if the 420-430 Bedford Street project is approved. For a $600 million project, you can see the estimated impact on a single-family home increases $2,231, or 12.1% per year without any capital stabilization, offsetting a portion of the debt service, down to about $1,278 increase, or a 6.9% increase with all of the approved projects applied. Again, this is further reduced if the 420-430 Bedford Street project moves forward. As we have previously committed, town staff will continue to update town meeting at each town meeting on the status of the capital stabilization framework and where the town is on mitigating the high school project debt. Town's overall financial status, our reserves, the operating and capital budgets all continue to be strong and provide adequate funding for all town, both municipal and school operations. Thank you.